What's up, guys? Welcome back to DCA. So what I want to do in this video is take a look at Bitcoin and look at Ethereum. And I want to relate these two assets to the total crypto market cap. So in other words, we'll be comparing them to basically all of the other top altcoins. The reason we're doing this is because the market, quite frankly, is moving into a more uncertain period right now. So when I say it's uncertain, it's simply to state that a lot of the macroeconomic factors that we're looking at in the market look to be negative at the moment. So we have the Fed, we have interest rates, we have inflation. Some things in the economy are starting to look uncertain, supply chain issues, et cetera, et cetera. So these issues, the culmination of all of these issues, is putting us in a place where, the market looks like it could be in a downtrend from here. Now, with that said, there have been numerous instances in the past when these issues coming together have sort of led the market into a rally, at least a short-lived rally. Now, typically we never see this last more than a year. However, it's at least worth noting that it has happened multiple times in the past when the Fed, for instance, starts raising interest rates. When we see bond yield curve inversions, the market has rallied from those points. Okay, paradoxically rallied. So it's at least worth noting that there is the potential for that. Now, one could argue that based on the fact that we've already seen the market go on this massive parabolic rally ever since 2020, one could argue that that's already kind of happened and we're now just more in a macro level downtrend. And so we're going to approach our analysis today with kind of both of those things in mind. We're going to approach it with the idea that potentially the market could go in either direction here. So what we're going to start by doing is taking a look at Bitcoin in relation to the total market cap of the altcoins. So we're excluding the market cap of Ethereum here. And what you can see is that Bitcoin, ever since May of 2020, has actually been performing rather poorly with relation to altcoins. Okay, so rather poorly in relation to what you may expect anyway, because typically when we see the market head into more bearish segments of the market, like we've basically been in since May. Now, the price action hasn't always reflected that necessarily, as we did see a massive run in November. Although when you look at all of the on-chain data, when you look at the user metrics, et cetera, the market has been in at least a user-defined bear market ever since the beginning of May. So we've seen the fact that altcoins since that time, and just to quickly demonstrate what we're looking at here, in case you aren't aware, this is Bitcoin divided by the total altcoin market cap, excluding Bitcoin, excluding Ethereum. So when this chart is going down, when this is moving down, this means altcoins are relatively outperforming Bitcoin. When it's moving up, so like you saw here from September until October, when it's moving up, that means Bitcoin is outperforming relative to the summation of all the altcoins, all right? So you saw Bitcoin moving down basically from October all the way until January. And since that time, you can see that at that point, when, this sort of bottomed out here in January, it bottomed out in September, and it bottomed out in May, the second week of May. And you'll recall these are each points where we've seen the altcoins as a whole rally. So back here in May, the second week of May is when, you had things like Cardano, Matic, et cetera. You can name almost any number of altcoins and they were rallying at this point. And then again in September, we saw a huge altcoin rally. And then again, some of the altcoins were moving in January. So these points typically correspond with altcoin rallies. Now, since then, at these points, the total value of all altcoins was actually equal to the total value of Bitcoin. You can see that it's very nearly 1 here. So 0.95. In other words, the value of Bitcoin was 95% that of all of the altcoins combined. Okay, so it got just over 1. Now, since that time, you'll see that we're only sitting at 1.09. So that means the value of Bitcoin is 9% higher than all of the altcoins. Okay. Now, what's interesting about this is the fact that we've been in a bearish segment of the market for nearly a year now. And in spite of that, Bitcoin has not moved up that much. In fact, if we just look ever since July, basically, and realistically, if you want to go from April, we've kind of been in a downtrend with respect to Bitcoin compared to all of the altcoins. Okay, so Bitcoin has overall not been performing quite as well as you might expect it to in the setting of a bear market or in the setting of a bearish segment of the market. Conversely, you could frame this as, if that's not how you wanted to look at it, the altcoins have been performing better than expected in the setting of this more bearish segment of the market. Okay. So this, on its surface starts to challenge a lot of our beliefs because, quite frankly, myself and many other individuals who have been long-term investors in this asset class, we take the approach that, you basically want to have at least a core position in Bitcoin. And then when you're in more bearish segments of the market, you want to start to look towards mostly being in Bitcoin. And then when you move into bullish segments of the market, then you want to move into altcoins. Because we all know it's, pretty common knowledge that altcoins are going to offer you much higher upside. So this is interesting because we're seeing that it seems that, quite frankly, Bitcoin has not been sort of making these bigger moves to the upside or sort of hasn't been gaining in ground against the altcoins like it has in the past. Now, that's one way to think about it. But the other way to look at this example here, or to look at this problem that we're facing, is maybe the altcoins are holding their value better than they have in the past. And quite frankly, I actually do think a lot of this issue here comes down to the fact that we have better altcoins now. They have more potential use now than we saw in the past. So it may not necessarily be that Bitcoin is falling out of favor and doesn't hold this same sort of store value that it has in the past. It may be that the altcoins are actually higher in value now or regarded as being better than they were back here when we moved into, look 1 year after the bear market in 2018 into 2019. So we were sitting at around 1.6. So Bitcoin was worth 60% more than the total value of all altcoins. Okay. And then eventually going up as high right at the start of the bull run as having, 4.6. So 360% more value in Bitcoin than all of the other altcoins combined. But when we started this run, when we started this bull run, the value of Bitcoin with relation to the altcoins has plummeted, indicating to us that individuals are valuing altcoins more, at least relatively more, than they are Bitcoin. So every single time we get down to around this 1 level, this 1.0, so anywhere between 0.95 and up to 1, you'll notice that we hit a level of support. So at those points, people start to take profits on their altcoins and then move back into Bitcoin because we see the value of Bitcoin in each of these instances move up with relation to the altcoins. Okay. So that's the first part of this. Now, the second thing we're going to do is how has Ethereum done over this time? And this is interesting because we're looking at essentially the same time frame here now. And, you may expect Ethereum to have been rising at least during points because, Ethereum is regarded as the premier altcoin. But what has it done even after we've been into some of these more, bearish segments of the market? Or what about the bullish segments of the market? And it's interesting because we've seen Ethereum, obviously, we're talking 2017 here, early parts of 2017. This is when Ethereum went on a massive run and then started to correct a bit. Okay. But ever since this end of 2018, it's formed this upward or this ascending support level. So you'll notice that in December of 2018, the Ethereum value was about 30% of the total altcoin value. Okay, so remember, we're looking at this metric, which is Ethereum divided by all of the altcoins. And so we're excluding Bitcoin and we're excluding Ethereum from that calculation. And you've seen Ethereum moving up and up and up. And every time it comes down to this support level, that's where it gets a bounce up with relation to all of the altcoins. So, this doesn't mean that every single time we come down to the support level, the value of Ethereum goes up, because potentially we could come down to this support level and the altcoins could lose value simply more than Ethereum has. Okay. Because remember, we're just dividing ETH divided by all other altcoins. But I think this is important here. I think this chart is telling. And I think, if you've been in my Discord, especially, I've said many times, while I'm heavily invested in Ethereum, I do think it creates some sort of impediment to the adoption of the crypto market, because of the fact that ETH transaction fees are so expensive that it's basically pricing out anyone who's, not hardcore into crypto. So they come in and maybe they want to get into NFTs, for instance, and the ETH market sort of prices them out because it's simply too expensive. Now, obviously, as we've mentioned many times, we're all looking to the ETH 2.0 or whatever you want to call it now. I'll continue to call it ETH 2.0 just for ease of use here. So people are looking for those upgrades to ETH in order to sort of change the pricing structure. Obviously, proof of stake and, all of the other related upgrades that will come with ETH. That's to say, so all I'm getting at here is, while I have my personal reservations, at the end of the day, we have to look at how the market is pricing Ethereum. My opinions don't matter. Your opinions don't matter. And that's nothing against you, but we're investors here. So we aren't here to be emotional about what we're investing in and let our own personal judgments cloud our vision of what's happening. And what we're seeing is that ever since the end of 2018 into 2019, the market has been suggesting to us that the value of Ethereum is going to continue to rise with relation to all of the altcoins. So, this puts us into a place where, while the value of altcoins are rising relative to all other altcoins, we're actually seeing Ethereum slowly rise. And, we're going to see times where it rises and it falls and it rises and it falls, because we all know, for instance, back in late November, early December, the value of Ethereum was at its peak. We made a new all-time high there. But over time, our base level for the value of Ethereum is continuing to rise. So even right now, while it's trading below $3,000, you'll notice that it's a green candle. In other words, this week, Ethereum, with relation to all other altcoins, it's outperforming all other altcoins. Okay. So this is an interesting fact, because I think, common knowledge would be that, obviously altcoins are outperforming Ethereum, but we're seeing something quite the opposite. Now, depending on what time frame you're looking at, we can see that we're actually maybe, you could look at a very long time frame like this and say, yes, Ethereum is in a clear uptrend. Or potentially you could look in a shorter term time frame and say, well, it's actually in a downtrend. In fact, we've maybe have seen that there's a resistance level up here at around 0.61. So there's different ways of looking at it, but I tend to prefer to look at longer term trends. And I tend to prefer to rely on these trends that are looking at both bearish segments of the market and bullish segments of the market to understand what exactly is happening here. So while we're in a bull market, naturally altcoins are going to be favored because there's much riskier money coming into the asset class, which is speculating on assets which may or may not have any value. And we saw that back in 2017 into 2018. Almost all of the altcoins, in fact, I just did a video on Chainlink talking about this. So the altcoins that actually held their value or actually went up in value from, looking back to the 2017 market cycle to this current market cycle, The ones that retained value were the ones that have the most use case. So when we look at things like Chainlink, it has a massive use case. It secures the entire DeFi market. So if you're unfamiliar with Chainlink or what it's used for, and all you know is that it's been underperforming during this market cycle, if that's the extent of your knowledge about Chainlink, I truly suggest you watch one of the videos that I'll put a link to in the description below, which detail everything you need to know about Chainlink and why it's in fact one of the strongest assets in the entire market. Chainlink is one of the few assets which has retained its value and in fact gone up orders of magnitude since the 2017 cycle. Ethereum is another great example. Bitcoin would be another. So you're talking about all of these assets with true use cases, or in Bitcoin's case, it's the true store of value in the crypto market, or at least it's been perceived as such. So when you look at a lot of the other assets, on the other hand, that didn't end up having any use case or were not adopted in any way, they have actually lost value. Many assets, in fact, we went through the list yesterday, something on the order of 95% of assets that were in the top 100 back in the 2017 cycle are now worth 5% of what they were worth back in 2017, 2018. So you need to be looking for assets that, you know, have a true use case. And so you see a lot of bad investments going up in value during these bull markets. But what do you see? You continue to see the best assets which have been adopted, which are finding uses, which are, you know, there's actual demand for the token. You continue to see those rise. And that's kind of why you've seen Chainlink go up in value. That's why you've seen Ethereum go up in value. It's because of the fact that people are using the network. If you're using the network, there's demand for it. Okay, it's that simple. Many of these projects that people invest in right now and, you know, tout as being amazing projects have absolutely no demand other than speculative investment. And so that's why, you know, in my opinion, you see some of the better projects sort of stall out during these mania phases of the market. So what I'm getting at here is the fact that as long as we continue to see Ethereum on this upward trend, I think it is a very bullish sign for Ethereum. And so in spite of my personal beliefs about Ethereum, that, you know, the cost structure is sort of prohibitive to the crypto market, that doesn't matter. It's what the market has to say about Ethereum. Okay. So the last thing I want to look at, and this is an interesting topic, is the potential for a flippening of ETH to Bitcoin. So we're looking at the market cap of Bitcoin here divided by the market cap of Ethereum. So we know that the market cap of BTC is about double that of Ethereum, and that reflects here. So 2.0. So this is telling you the market cap of Bitcoin is 2.1 times that of Ethereum. So what we've seen though, is if you come back here to early 2020, at the beginning of 2020, the market cap of Bitcoin was 9.4 times that of Ethereum. And that has come all the way down to where it's at now at around 2.1. So, you know, what we're saying is that we've basically been in this trend right here ever since the start of 2020. And now we've run into this resistance level anywhere from 2 all the way down to around 1.6. So whenever the market cap of Ethereum gets to right around that 0.5 up to around 0.6 level with relation to Bitcoin, it sort of stalls out there. But if this trend continues, as we normally see, resistance levels can only give resistance for so long before it sort of gives way. And it will be interesting to see, you know, which way is the market going to break, because I don't think it can continue to do this forever. And in fact, you'll see that the rate of decline for Bitcoin has sort of slowed down ever since May of 2021. So it's been sort of more steady since then. So it is declining with relation to Ethereum, but it's doing it more slowly now. So we're going to have to see, as we're coming to sort of this precipice of this descending wedge that it's forming, will it break to the upside or to the downside? I don't think I could be wrong about this, but I don't think it will just start trending sideways right at this 2.0 level. So it will the market will tell us whether there's continued belief in Ethereum or whether Bitcoin is going to remain as the dominant force. Now, traditionally speaking, when we move into a bearish segment of the market, you would favor, if we move into a true bearish stage of the market, we certainly have been looking bearish, but, quite frankly, it could get a lot worse than it has from here. So traditionally, we would suspect that as it's moving down like this, if we really started to plummet, if the stock market really started to plummet and then the crypto market went with it, you would suspect that Bitcoin would then move up back into this range where it typically goes with relation to Bitcoin and the altcoins. And then on this chart, Bitcoin and the price of Ethereum, you would expect that it would head back up this way. However, there's always the chance that the market is going to start to favor use case over store of value. Now, I'm suspicious that that's going to be difficult if we remain in a bearish segment of the market, but at minimum, it's worth watching. So we're sort of forming multiple different interesting trends. Number one is the fact that you're seeing Bitcoin on now a long-term decline with relation to the altcoins. So realistically, if you want to, you can, other than this short segment at the start of the bull market, you could say that Bitcoin has been in a long-term downtrend ever since September of 2019 with relation to all of the altcoins. So I think when any one of these major trends that you're seeing breaks, it's going to lead to a new sort of dynamic shift in the market. So the three that we need to watch is Bitcoin with relation to the altcoins. Will it break above this trend line or below? Then we need to watch Bitcoin with respect to Ethereum. And again, if it breaks below, that means Ethereum is gaining value with respect to Bitcoin and the flippening is right on the horizon. I think if you see us go below this bottom trend line here, certainly below this 1.4 level, I think it's indicating a complete phase shift in the market. I think it's indicating that if we go below this 1.4 level here, you're going to be looking at the flippening being imminent. And then the last thing we need to look for, which could invalidate the chances of a flippening occurring, would be Ethereum dropping below this trend line with respect to the altcoins. So if any one of these events occurred, it would be a massive shift in the way that the market is approaching any one of these assets in Bitcoin or Ethereum, or how it's approaching the totality of the altcoins. So I think this is going to be the most interesting thing going forward in 2022 and then into 2023. So that's what I'm watching for, guys. I'll continue to watch it with you and we'll be here to talk about it along the way. So that's it for this one. Until next time, as usual, see you.